Okay, the cost of living is a direct consequence of political policy, and it underscores the primacy of political action over market forces. What we are really suffering right now is that the political actors right now are not prioritizing or taking action to prioritize the questions around the cost of living, which are influenced by fuel, the cost of fuel, and the cost of production generally has gone up. So it really needs political action, but the president has declined to take the political action that is required, and as a consequence of that, the cost of living continues skyrocketing. But as you know, anybody will tell you there are only 4 things in the world that a government needs to address seriously. The first thing is food. You must keep food away from the control of the ordinary fluctuations of prices on world markets, on the open markets. Number 2, you must control the cost of health. Number 3, you must control the cost of education. Number 4, you must control the cost of transport. And if you look at our government, all those sectors, it has done nothing to intervene. So if the government was to intervene and make those sectors no-go areas for cartels and do no-gooders and the thieves, this country would not be going through the mess it is going through. Somebody will be very comfortable living on the street and sleeping on the rough on the street, but having food in his stomach and being able to be treated when he's sick. It doesn't require a house over food. It doesn't require shelter over health. It doesn't require shelter over education. And it needs to move around. So our government has literally failed to address the key areas, and there are 4. Food, health, education, and transport. Those 4 areas have failed. Those are the 4 areas that burden the citizen most. So you need a government that can take political action to address those issues and see how it can cushion the ordinary person from the vagrancies of those commodities, or the effects of those commodities on their lives. But when I look at it, I don't see it in President William Ruto, especially now that he has surrendered his mind to the mind of the IMF and the World Bank. IMF and the World Bank have just one purpose: to create client states. And if you look at the policies that have been rolled out by the Kenya Kwanza government, they are largely designed to make Kenya a client state, to put Kenya on its knees so that we can keep on moving around with a beggar's ball. Production in Kenya has become too expensive. So everything is going to shrink, the economy is going to collapse, and we shall begin begging all over the world. And we shall be a perfect client state for the West. So William Ruto, I think, is empty. This head is empty in terms of what are the existential threats that face the black people, that face Africans. He swallowed the issues of the white man, the way they are packaged. He doesn't understand crony capitalism, how it works. So he has now become an agent of the West to destroy an African state. And some of the things he is doing are bordering on treason. They are treasonable, and maybe going down the line he might be impeached if he doesn't change course and begin understanding what Article 1 says, that the people of Kenya are sovereign. And when they elected him, there was nowhere in his manifesto where he said that the IMF and the World Bank are going to govern Kenya when he gets into office. He promised to govern this country, but he's destroying it. Everything is crumbling in 1 year. It's not acceptable. So he needs to shape up, or he might get impeached down the line. I don't think his MPs will die with him. They're going to get a point whereby he can be impeached if he doesn't change course and begin doing things that benefit this country, not to benefit the Western powers, not to benefit the World Bank. Right now he wants to sell the assets. These assets, some of them were put up before he was born. Now he wants to come and sell them. What will the future generations have as a state? Those who run the government in future, what will they rely on to run this government? We have already talked of food. We are talking of transport. We are talking of education. We are talking of health. If these things are sold, how will the future governments finance those key ingredients of our modern society? So for me, I think William Ruto is going overboard. And where we are right now, we might be facing an impeachment very soon.
My name is John Odero from Kenya Digital News. I just have one question for you to shed more light on. Recently, we had the bipartisan talk report being tabled by the Kimani Ichung'wah and Honorable Stephen Kalonzo Musyoka. And one of the key issues they were agitating for was the high cost of living. It is now missing on the final report. What can you say as a legislator in the Senate?
I think that Boma's process was a waste of time. It was a waste of time. If you look at the solutions that provided, I've simply regurgitated what RUTO has been saying all along. Looks like RUTO is preparing for a leader of opposition so that in case he loses the next elections, he will still be in parliament as a leader of the opposition. And there's no other thing that I'm talking about. They're trying to create a job from Davide. What is that? Is that a national issue? Let him fix the cost of living. Let him fix the cost of petroleum. Let him remove the taxes that are driving this country crazy. Let him trim down on the cost of running government. And the people will thrive. Let them allow people to produce. But as I've said, what he's doing is going to lead to an impeachment. He has allowed the International Monetary Fund and the World Bank to capture this country. And I don't think that's something we can live with for very long. Now, that's all I can say.
Just the final question. Do you see a possibility of the official opposition leader in the country, Raila Odinga, maybe coming up with a solution to end electoral injustices in the Republic of Kenya? Because what we saw in 2022, some Kenyans were saying maybe President RUTO rigged to become the President of the Republic of Kenya. Do you see a possibility of RUTO and Raila ending electoral injustices in Kenya?
I don't see that. The only people who could end that was the Supreme Court, but the Supreme Court has solved its all. Look at what they've done to the electoral system. They even manufactured something called spoiled ballots. When the Constitution does not allow for spoiled ballots because the Constitution anticipates a digital election, not a manual election. Yes. Let us go digital. Let us go the Brazilian way and we shall resolve all these things. Anybody who wins will be known automatically. Anybody who loses will be known automatically. But the Supreme Court went to bed with those who don't want a digital election in this country. And that's why the mess is. It's not Raila to fix. It's the Supreme Court to get its act together and accept that the system of election that we have under the Constitution of Kenya, which can give us a simple, accurate and verifiable election, is a digital election. And verifiable by who? Verifiable by the voter. I want to be able to vote. I'm given a serial number. When I go home, I go out to the computer, to the website of the IBC. I can trace my vote and know that it went to the candidate I voted for. That's the level of verifiability we need. Not all this nonsense the Supreme Court has been putting us through. It has totally messed up the Constitution, and the problem is the Supreme Court, not Raila. Okay. Thank you.
Just before you go, many Kenyans have been blaming both the senators and members of parliament, especially during the finance bill before it became a finance act. Some of them are saying, where were you when this thing was being passed? What can you say about
First of all, the Finance Act does not come to the Senate. Yes. Because of the machinations Uhuru had with in the last government and the kind of senators we had, they agreed that the budget will not be done in the Senate, it will only be done by the National Assembly. It is something we are fighting to change. But then when you go to the National Assembly, there's something they call the budget office. The budget is brought, it's dumped there, taken to the budget office where all manner of things are traded. And then the assembly simply votes on the report of the budget committee. They don't interrogate the budget. And there's a lot of budgetary corruption that is destroying this country, that we need to focus going forward on Chapter 12 and see to it that public finances are controlled by the people of Kenya. Right now, even if you look at the structure of the Treasury, the Treasury under Article 225 Clause 1 is supposed to be independent. But the Treasury we have right now is headed by a Minister for Finance, a PS of Finance appointed by the President, which means the President controls the money of this country, when the Constitution does not give him any of those powers. That's why those are the kind of problems we have. We have to go back to the design of the country and make sure we get the design correct. Otherwise, everything will collapse.
Thank you so much.
Okay.